When we're talking about philanthropy, it's very complicated to do that kind of thing in Brazil because people sometimes are selfish, especially those who cannot understand the purpose and the importance of philanthropy. Uh, right now, we have a very complicated situation regarding Brazil Foundation. It's a charity initiative that it's not allowed to do their traditional gala dinner in order to fundraise to their activities that support a lot of poor people here in Brazil. And I'm taking this opportunity in order to talk to you that is watching this video in order to help Brazil Foundation that they will have a virtual gala dinner at September the 12th in order to raise money to these very important initiatives. And taking this opportunity, in order to take this opportunity, I'm here with three very important people in this field in order to talk about philanthropy and education. And I'm here with the only Brazilian that belongs to the Giving Pledge Club, which is Mr. Elie Horn. I have here the Dean Sam Chandam from NYU, and he is also related to Silverstein Real Estate Company. And my very dear friend, Renato Ochman, which is one of the top lawyers here in Brazil. So this is much more conversation in order to each of you to give a speech. So I'm gonna ask a few questions and then talk to everybody in order to discuss a little bit about philanthropy and education. So, Mr. Horn, I'd like to start with you. We were talking before about the importance of philanthropy, and I asked you, and I will ask again, about the lessons that you received from your father in order to give back all the good things that you received. So would you tell us what happened to your father?
You began speaking about selfishness, but what is a man? Man, when he's born, he's selfish. Man is to be educated, otherwise he's going to be savage, wild. The animal doesn't need education, but that's why he's wild. So the main point is to be aware, to make people conscious about their duty. If God exists and He exists, we are here to be tested. The only test that is valid is the one that we give money to charity when you are a businessman. If you don't do it, you'll pay the consequences in this world and the other world. So it's cheaper to do it now. This is one point. Second point, in my case, my religion tells me to give money is very important to charity. And my father gave me the example when he gave 100% of his money when I was 40 years old. He was not so rich, but anyhow, he did what he gave what he could. That for me was a very important point of lesson.
And I understood that you taught that lesson to your sons as well.
If there's no continuity, there's nothing. I mean, the word should go on. And my three boys learn the lesson, and they do a lot of charity. In Hebrew, tzedakah is not charity; it's justice. When you give money, you do justice. You don't give a gift. You bring justice to the world. That is our main mission.
Oh, that's in the Bible as well, right?
Exactly. In all the three religions, Jewish, Christian, and Muslim.
I'd like to talk to Dean Chandam now. I understand that you run a real estate university that is funded by Silverstein. Would you explain to us how this initiative began and how exactly this funding made?
Sure. So first, thank you for the opportunity to join you. As you mentioned, the Schack Institute was founded in 1967 as the Real Estate Institute at New York University by Larry Silverstein. And Larry has been a philanthropist in New York City and beyond, really incredibly generous in supporting our program and so many other initiatives, both in the United States and in Israel. When he founded Schack, his goal was to ensure that young people working in the real estate industry would have a chance to and an opportunity to develop the technical skills, the know-how to be active and successful in the industry. He not only founded Schack, he actually endowed my chair at the Schack Institute, and so I am the Larry and Clara Silverstein chair in real estate development and investment. We've been extraordinarily fortunate over our 52, 53-year history now to be supported by members of the community in bringing to bear funds and resources that have allowed us to open the doors to what is now the largest real estate program in the world. We have an undergraduate program. We offer 3 graduate degrees. We have corporate and executive education, programs that focus on cities, affordable housing, the role of cities in the global environment and global real estate. Our most recent large-scale initiative has been the creation of a new institute that will be based in Shanghai at NYU's campus there, focused on real estate in emerging markets specifically. So we're looking at a broad range of countries where real estate markets are in their formative stages and are maybe looking at things like how do we formalize the lending market? How do we formalize and begin to introduce REIT structures? How do we bring best practices to bear? But across all of these different programs, I think one of the things that has really distinguished us is the way in which so many people in the industry have supported us in being able to make financial aid and scholarships available so that the best and brightest students from around the world are able to join us at Schack and take advantage of the educational opportunities that we offer, primarily through need-based scholarships and through merit scholarships as well.
It's very interesting to...
1 minute, Alvisa. Why he doesn't come to Brazil? Why Sam doesn't come to Brazil to open...
I think we're very excited. Renato, maybe perhaps you can chime in there since you've joined our board, which we're very excited about.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the idea. I'm being work in the board of NYU and Schack Institute for a year, and it's an honor, a pleasure to be a member of that. And I'm assumed that I'm just a listener in until now, because some other members, they know everything about the program and the endowment but the idea is to bring Schack and be more close to Brazil. And we have already many Brazilians studying there. And but shortly, we hope to have a Schack Institute or something here in Brazil.
We would like to have the students in Brazil studying, not in the States.
Maybe.
Yeah, but what we find, we do have students from Brazil. Actually, 40% of our students in our graduate program are from outside the United States in different parts of the world. One important element of the value that we bring is that students from all over the world can come together to learn about each other, to learn about how real estate markets work in different parts of the world. And so no matter where you're from, being able to have that global experience and meet people from different parts of the world is incredibly important. We're very eager to expand our presence, our visibility in Brazil, our relationship with the real estate industry there. We do lead global field intensives every year, and have been very excited for the opportunity to be able to bring our students to Brazil and elsewhere. This year, regrettably, we've not been able to have our spring and summer field intensives. I was supposed to have taken a group of students to Tel Aviv, And we had, we have alumni and others there that were very excited to welcome us. And unfortunately, given the current circumstances, we've not been able to do that. But as things begin to normalize, we're very excited about the opportunity to really expand our relationships in Brazil. And meeting Renato, his support of the Schack Institute have been instrumental for us over the last year in laying the groundwork to be able to really begin doing that in a more robust way.
Sam, it's very interesting that a real estate company is founding an institute called Schack.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me the origins of this initiative?
So, again, when Larry founded Schack in 1967, he's not only generous but very modest and humble. I should say he remains the chairman emeritus of our board. And when I came to Schack from Wharton just about 4 years ago, I remember hoping that I would have the chance to meet Larry, to dialogue with him, and he is not only generous as a philanthropist, but so generous with his time. He has obviously sort of a very large portfolio of assets. He's made it his work since 9/11 to rebuild Lower Manhattan and to rebuild the World Trade Center site. But he still makes so much time available to mentor me, faculty, other board members, to share ideas and thoughts, to meet with our students. And for me, this is sort of what makes him such an extraordinary philanthropist. It's not just that he supports our programs in the traditional way, financially and endowing my chair. It's that he's so giving of his time. And there's when I sort of see board members like Renato and others, who are really contributing and supporting the program in both of those ways with their time as well as their resources. That's really sort of what makes it so special. As for this name Schack, Ken Schack, about 12, 13 years ago now, wanted to really sort of understood our vision for what we wanted to do in making real estate opportunities available and opening the industry, not just for people who come from real estate families. That's a big part of the student body at Schack, but also creating opportunities for young people that may perhaps have not come from real estate backgrounds, for whom real estate is a new industry, to say, we will work with you to provide you with the best possible education, but also to connect you with industry. I think that vision really resonated for him, and he and his family, the Schacks, that are very active in the New York area and Florida, made a naming gift to create the Schack Institute, what had for many years been otherwise the Real Estate Institute at NYU. And we're also very lucky, I should mention, to be part of the School of Professional Studies at NYU, which is the home to programs like the hotel program, the global sports program, the real estate program, that are very focused on direct connections with and engagement with industry.
Mr. Horn, I understand that your priority in terms of your actions is education, right?
Yes. Yes.
Why don't you tell us why education is so important for a country like Brazil?
Education is important for any country, Brazil, the States, England, or France, or China. Without education, you don't have evolution, you don't have progress, you don't have nothing. Why? Because it is the way that God created the world. A production of a man with a university degree is much more than the one who doesn't study. Here you have it's obvious, you don't need to talk about it. I hope that Mr. Sam will invite me to go to see his university when I'll be in the States.
Absolutely. We would be thrilled to see you here. Would love if we could schedule that your visit coincided with Renato's. If your visit could coincide with one of our board meetings, so that I can introduce you to Larry, whom you probably already know. that would be wonderful. And I hope that then we can collaborate when I visit Brazil next.
With pleasure. Alvizio, I think to study is very clear. It's very important in order to be able to do whatever you want. No study, no progress.
Renato,
I should mention, Mr.
us,
Horn. Yeah. I apologize. Please.
Renato, why don't you tell us your work with Schack and the attributions of the advisory board? How does it work?
Well, first of all, I'm very close with the education and support some project I started years and years ago, and one of my participation was for more than 10 years was in the graded school, the American school in São Paulo. I was a board member, and we made a very huge campaign there. And with that, I was invited to be a board member of the Schack. And our goal is to give basically the support with time and contribution. This is what we have to do there, and in all boards of this kind of institution. And what is interesting is that we can have a view, an international view of the education, not specifically of Brazil or another country. So we have a global vision of the projects and the more important, the needs of the people all over the world. And to me, it's a very nice experience with that.
Alvizio.
Yes.
I'll make you a question. You believe in God?
Absolutely.
So the first education to be is to know that God exists. What God wants from you, what God is, what you're doing in this earth, what will be after death. That is the beginning of education. That makes you be modest, humble, and prestative to help other people. I think it's very important. And God today is not in fashion. We need to bring God in fashion again. Not extremism, God. God in the pure way of the pure sense of the word. Not extremism, nothing, we can say, radical. God is not radical by definition.
Mr. Horn, let me grab this opportunity in order to ask you the following. To donate is something superior, something noble, but it needs to be humble to do that, right?
Yes.
So my question is, how can you connect to this humbleness, to this humility?
What do you mean? How do you connect?
How can you connect to how can such a rich person with so many assets to connect with this situation in which she will become humble? Because it's a very complicated situation for a very successful person to be humble.
I think in my case, I decided to make a trick. I promised 60% to charities. That is, 60% is not mine anymore. So the money I give is not mine. It's the money I manage. It's much easier to do it that way than to take money from your pocket each time. Point two, when you see people that need the money, poor people, you become much more humble because you see how life it is, not only in the wealthy places, but in the poor places. I remember sometime in a trip, I took my children to see half a day, very poor places in order to know, to be aware what is happening in the world. I think when you know that God exists, you become humble by definition. You cannot be proud when God exists. He is much more than you.
Well, Sam, I can see by the language that you're a religious person as well. So my question is, how can you connect with this religious side and be at the same time an executive, a person that has to take
any objection? Any objection? I don't see why we cannot do both.
Sure,
Can be
absolutely.
good in good person, believe in God.
I agree.
I don't need to be one or the other. It can be both.
I think, at Schack, we have students that, again, come from all over the world, from all different faith traditions, some from no faith tradition at all. But what permeates Schack and, what is so foundational to our mission is that we educate students, we empower them to, be successful, and not only to do well for themselves, but to do good for others. And I think the underlying motivation for that is very, very much in line with what Mr. Horn has described.
Good.
Well, my friends, I have to finish this recording here because we have a limit of time. But before doing that, I'd like to ask Mr. Horn to give his final remarks.
I want to speak about Kabbalah a little bit. Kabbalah is meant to receive. You know that matter is matter in the spiritual is spiritual. At the end of time, the soul that is spiritual and body that is matter will become one. At the end of times, both of them will join God that is one. A couple is one. A couple with a child is one. Energy, when light is divided, is in particle and energy that is non-matter. At the end, there will be one. Instead of waiting time at the end of time to be one, let's be one now. Let's unite. Let's make the people more happy. Let's do our obligation. Let's be one nation, one people, one person, and one entity. And let's join God. That is the ultimate point of life, the ultimate point of being tested.
Well, thank you very much, you all, Renato, Mr. Horn, Mr. Chandam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
and
My pleasure.
I'd like to talk to you that stay with us until now. It's very important to support Brazilian Foundation and their event at the September 12th. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you. Invite me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was there last year, I think, in the dinner gala that they did in São Paulo.